So, a couple of times a year, the cages get quite waterlogged, and we need to drain water out of them, especially in the springtime when all of the snow melts. So, I'm just going to quickly explain to you the key points of the cages that get the most boggy and how to drain them. Okay, so this is the back of SDA, and the first two cages here, for some reason, get really boggy. But the thing is, we've got a running circle here. Hello. We've got a running circle here, which is quite substantially lower than this cage. So as if you channel all of the water to this corner, it drains off and goes over to that low point there. The same with this cage. As if you dig out just about there, dig a bit of a channel, go into this running circle, and everything should drain down to the bottom. So these two cages are particularly bad. So the first thing to do when everything starts to melt is to dig a trench all the way around both of them, and then you can dig a drainage trench off the back to try and get the water as far away from the cages as possible. And we can also work on maybe adding some earth in the summer to raise the ground level. But yeah, it's all downhill back there, so yeah, you can get it moving, but the key is to start early with these cages. So the whole farm is on a slope. So as if you can see the line of the tops of the cages, you get a pretty good impression. So all of the water drains that way. But the thing is, when it gets to that end cage, it stops. So, as if we can get as much water from across here to this side of the path, so it can drain that way better. So, yeah, you want to dig trenches all the way along the front, and you'll probably find at the moment that there's wooden steps that are going to get in the way, so you can dig round them or try and break them out. But we have two low parts of ground underneath the snow. One comes just across here, so from in between those two cages, number 7 and this tree here, going in front of the tree. Be careful not to cut away too much at the tree's roots with pickaxes and mattocks, because that will kill the tree and also make it unstable. Right, so the other point we can drain water off in the cages area is across here and across here down to this point in between the sleigh shelter and the shed. So as if you can remove some of that snow here, people seem to automatically want to drain the water to right in front of the sheds. That's not very smart, because that means we're in quagmire and not the dogs. But it drains off nicely just down there. So from this corner, where this tree is, and there's a depression in the ground which goes off in this direction, and you can try and aim for that back post there of the drying shed. So yeah, just across here. And also you can drain some of the water from here, from the right hand view, across the track here. So This is just about the lowest part. You can try and drain a bit of the water off down this side, and yeah, we really don't want very much at all. I mean, still dig in front of the last 2 cages and also that corner so we can get the water out. But as if you dig quite a big area out here, and this is the worst cage here, this gets really quite wet. There's not really all of that much we can do about it. They have got a wooden platform at the back so they can get out of it, and we can add some more sand to raise the level, but a bit of digging does help quite a lot to get the water out and let it drain off and soak off into the surrounding area. Right, so these last 2 cages get really quite muddy, and obviously, as if we drain off down there, it's all going to end up in that corner cage that I've just been showing you. You can drain some off underneath this wooden floor here, but again, it all ends up in that cage. So the best place to drain all of this off is actually through into the running fence here. So there's a hole there in the plywood on either side, and you can dig along the side and the back, and that'll take everything down to the far end where it can drain across through to the to where the sheds are. So all of these cages have all got plywood digging barriers to stop the doggies from digging out, because they're crazy. And in the plywood there's various gaps. Sometimes it's joins between the plywood, well, it normally is, and yeah, what we've got is, where we've got bigger gaps, we've got stone lined little channels, and you can't see them, but once you start to dig the snow out you will. So as if you can find the areas where we've got gaps, which very often it's in the corners, then you can dig channels from the back of the cage to the front and to wherever we've got a gap at the front. So once the water starts moving and you start doing a bit of digging, then that should become a little bit clearer. Another cage that gets quite wet is the one at the top corner, which is quite strange because it's one of the higher ones. But again, digging out around the front and the sides, especially if you start early, I think that's quite a key thing, to get some channels dug out when the snow. Shush! I'm talking. Do you mind? Yeah, I think the key thing is to start quite early, as if possible, when the snow starts melting, and to not let it get too bad in the first place. As for the running circles, it's pretty much the same, in that you want to try and encourage the water to move downhill because everything's on a slope. There's a couple of running circles at the back, which maybe if it gets particularly bad we can move the dogs off, but yeah, just get the water flowing. But as if you're digging around, particularly in the summer, what you want to bear in mind is that we've got electricity cables in a line right down the front of the right hand side. We have got a small stone lined channel just here, stone lined, so you can't cut through the cable with your spade. So that this is a good place to go for, just this side of that birch tree, between the birch tree and the light post. Yeah, so it's about there. So that's a good place to get the water moving across the track. I know that seems like a lot of work, and it is, but it's worth it to try and keep our boys and girls dry, isn't it? Yes. So, yeah. So, like I say, in the spring, start early. In the summer, also in the running circles, you can make holes into the sand with a pinch bar. That does help. And yeah, and don't dig through any cables.